and still have them that teaches really good marketing strategies, especially for ecom. But the problem was there wasn't much, hey, here's a system, here's how you plug A to B and B to C.
Right.
And I was like, okay, that's what I need. And I basically joined your group literally just for the Google spreadsheet. Like, I'm not even kidding. I could have just had the creative roadmap sheet and I would have been like, okay, cool, worth it. Because I mean, just from that alone, I think I found like just from having that creative roadmap sheet, it gave me, I found like 12 ads, and I think two or three of those became winners. So I mean, just from that alone, just finding those ads and being accountable for already making them, I mean, that probably paid itself back for the cost of the course, really.
Yeah, that's interesting. So it's mostly just to get those systems in place. And so when you first joined, you were at what revenue? And then where are you at right now?
Okay, so when we first joined, when I joined your course, I was at like around a quarter mil a month. And the thing is that that was actually like that was like a major downfall. That's the biggest drop we've ever had because for months previous to that, I want to say it was like 2 months previous, it was around 500K. And then with that drop, it was like a major Mayday, like break the glass in case of emergency kind of moment. And it was just because, like I said, we went to that business meetup, and during that time, I wasn't really working because I was more focused on networking and learning. And as soon as I took my foot off the gas and I wasn't directly in the business 24/7, it just kind of it went downhill. And then I was trying to scramble to get it all back. And I realized I can do it, but there's going to be a lot more mess, a lot more slop, a lot more difficulty versus if I just figured out systems. And honestly, up until that point, I didn't really even think about systems because everything was going good. And I was like, okay, well, it's not broken. Don't fix it. Don't waste time. Just keep doing what's working. And then once that dip happened, I was like, okay, well, let's figure out these systems. And that's when I was like, I need to learn this. And I was really looking for the most plug and play group or mentor or strategy or whatever. I didn't really even know or care where it came from or what it was. I just know I needed organization and a clear A to B to C. What's it called? I keep saying systems. I guess that is what it is at the end of the day. But like, yeah, just system. Like, just I need something that's systematized to get me from A to B to C, and then I can see the input to output connection clearly. That's what I needed. And when I got in your course, it gave me that. It gave me that structure.
Interesting, cool. And so then you put that in place, and then one thing, you worked with us for about 3 months, and you went from 250, and so where did you end up?
For the last 3 months, it's been around 500K. So joined at
That's where you
250,
were.
and now it's been like 500, between like 500 and 550 for like 3 months straight.
Sweet, that's awesome. And are there any specific kind of quote unquote systems that you think made the biggest difference? I know you found out tons of the creative roadmap sheet, the whole creative process, and then also things like getting on call with Demos, right? Who's running the CMO of his brand that does multiple 8 figures a year, and kind of getting on call with him and him screen sharing the process. You think were those the two ones that made the biggest difference for you, or are there any other ones that stand out?
Mhm. So you said could you repeat it? What was it, the biggest systems or biggest breakthrough? What was it that you said?
Yeah, what were the systems specifically that you think made the biggest difference? Because there were a few that we walked you through, whether it's creative or project
Yeah,
management, or which were the ones that really made the big difference?
good question. The things that really made the biggest difference was having clear tracking and understanding, okay, this is an idea, this is a new concept, this is a revision, this is an iteration, and then understanding how much you can really pull out of that, of like really maximizing effort is what I would say.
Sure.
Because before it was kind of just like all over the place, like I had said. And now that you guys showed like the creative roadmap and the sauna systems, and you really made it clear as to, okay, we're not just testing, we're trying to speak to personas and angles and avatars. And we're going to kind of extrapolate it down to that. And then we're going to have data and we're going to be able to incrementally move based off that data. And then understanding once you have a winner, that you can really just iterate and iterate and iterate and iterate, which I don't think it was just that. I think it was more along the lines of I now once again had the clear A to B to C to D system. Like it was way easier to track and understand, and it gave me a lot more clarity of data. So that's really what it was. Just putting things on paper and being able to follow through with them to understand how to maximize that effort over and over and over and over again. Because that's the thing is like there was like ups and downs, but now it's just been steady, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of intentionally been steady. By the way, people are like, "Oh, he's stagnating." Uh, in a lot of ways, I'm not like in a lot of ways I'm doing things that I needed to catch up on, and actually in a lot of ways it's going a lot better because there's way more stability. And right now I'm completely okay with where I'm at for the next month or so, for like 3 to 4 months, kind of staying there, but getting these back ends in place to where I'm like, okay, once we start cranking, we're gonna start cranking, and that's fine with me, and I'm happy to be here. Like actually building a team.
Yeah.
And that's the second thing that you guys helped a lot with was building a team. Because I don't know why, man, but I had it in my head that it'd be so hard to build the team and it'd be so hard to train everybody. But now I realize there's like you with a very, very lean team, you can go very, very far, Ecom. And I remember one time you were like, I think it was, yeah, it was, we were on a call and you were like, well, why don't you just hire him? And I think we were talking about a strategist, and I was like, I don't know, why don't I just hire him? And it just kind of made me question, like, well, you can afford to, and kind of your limitation is time at this point, so why not do that? And that's going to be massive because you can double output. Basically just double output. That alone is going to make a massive change, or double, launch another product or so on and so forth. And you're not the single point of failure, like you as the founder.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's awesome that you actually even realize that you need to build out those systems because most people get to the stage where maybe they get to the first 250 a month or 300 a month. But like you said, it always just lives and dies by them, as it was like when you were, at that event in Dubai where we first kind of met. And it just lives and dies by you. And they don't really understand that the missing part of that is actually just the systems to turn that into some sort of repeatable process where they could then slowly over time take themselves more and more out of it to where you can now move up to the next higher level leverage activity, right? The issue, we talked about that word a lot, leverage, when you're first on the calls when you join the program. You're doing all the copywriting. I think at some points you're even doing some editing and stuff like this still. And it's like, okay, how do we then outsource this to make it a proper system with proper project management KPIs to track accountabilities? That way you have the ability to step back to really start scaling the business without the other parts just collapsing, right? And you kind of see the results of that too with how consistent it's been for you recently.
Yeah, very consistent for sure. And man, I think consistency is so undervalued. Like you see some of these guys and they'll have like 100K days for like 5 days and then something tanks and it's like they're
Absolutely.
just flatlined or negative or chargebacks or whatever. And then it's like, oh wow, I hit, a 1 point, a mil and a half month. And it's like, okay, this is cool. But in reality, if you average it out, it's like a 250K, average month over a year. And it's like, that's just not the life I'd want to live. That's not how I'd want my employees to go through, seeing like ups and downs. That's not how I would want to have to calculate my decisions. And I would much rather be consistent with steady growth. And then if I want to crank, I can crank because there's a lot of stability there. And it's a very like lucrative system of just, like just a creative flywheel basically. I think, and that's personally exactly where I wanted to be when I joined your course, and now we're here. And it was a journey, but it was well worth it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I'm glad you understand that too, because it's like like you said, I could count. I won't say names, but like I could count like 10 people off the top of my head from money Twitter. Same thing. It's just like 100K
Yeah,
days zero, 100K days zero, and it's like great and all, but when you actually have the consistency and you could even show, let's just say at the bare minimum, it's like a 20% growth year over year. You do that for 5, 6, 7 years, right, on a brand, and your exit value is so much more than the guy who just did 100K for a couple days in a row, then went back to zero. Let alone if you can get that to a
yeah,
scale and you're going 20, 50%, even more than that a year, and you keep it consistent you know, that payday you're going to get is going to be massive compared to the alternative where there is no payday at the end of the tunnel
yeah,
to begin with.
yeah, yeah, for sure, man. Absolutely. And dude, I don't know what investor would buy a business like that.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
100K a
There's
day,
no
zero.
security.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's just a roller coaster.
Yeah, 100%. And so where are you at now then? So you're staying consistent at 500. You're building out the systems. It's been a lot more consistent. You're improving the back end and ready to crank it out. So when you say you're trying to improve the back end, what does that kind of look like? That way some people listening could take it and hopefully implement some of it themselves.
Yeah, really like building out a team. I would say that's really where we're at. Starting like, oh, dude, I got a really good creative strategist, like a
Nice.
killer, like absolute savage. I'm like, dude, I'm actually onboarding him. Our onboarding calls right after this. I'm so excited. I know that, and like, I probably went way overboard on how thorough I was on hiring this role, but like, dude, I found the guy. Like, I'm so confident in this guy. I really think it's going to work out, and I'll pour a lot into him to make sure it does. So, yeah. Anyway, but when I say back end, one is maximize it. Like, going from just a regular like a Shopify product page to more of like a full funnel architecture. That's one thing. Another thing is hiring the strategist and being a lot more deliberate on what I'm doing, not just like, oh, we're testing. Like, okay, let's have more intent behind what we're doing. So we're not just blowing testing budget. We're not just, oh, well, yeah, let's just launch 50 ad creatives today. It's like, okay, well, let's test this avatar with this persona. Let's go after this product. Let's go after, why are we doing these upsells? Why aren't we doing this type of upsell? Why aren't we testing this kind of upsell? Why aren't we launching this product? Q4 is on the way. We need to start figuring out how to maximize these things. Why aren't we testing advertorials to winning ads? What, things like this. And that's what I've been working on, I would say, a lot, and really looking at numbers for what the numbers are worth, not just like, oh wow, oh this is ROAS, okay, cool. It's like, okay, what's the hook? Like, just really being way more surgical with it, because, yeah, I don't want to, yeah, being more surgical with it, being very like focused on the business as a whole, which is one thing I think you do well, is that you talk about like blended ROAS and understanding return customer, repeat customer, return customer rate, and focusing on it as like a holistic business, not just e-commerce of throw ads, get money back, throw ads, get money back, things like that. So that's what I've been focused on.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's why when we first had that first onboarding call, I talked a lot about the back end and email, new SKUs and new product lines and that sort of thing, because what people really don't grasp is it only gets harder to get a good CPA on Facebook. Like, it just increases. It's getting more and more difficult with the barrier to entry, becoming easier with AI and stuff to actually get a great CPA on Facebook. And so the difference between the guys you see just absolutely spending millions a month and doing millions a month or even tens of millions a month in revenue versus the guys who don't is that they just simply have better targets on Facebook because their return customer rate's higher, their LTV is higher, and because of that, they don't need a 2 ROAS on the front end. They only need a 1.4, 1.5. And so I think you're absolutely moving in the right direction with these hires, buying back a lot of your time to be able to put more focus into improving the back end further. Because I think, once again, most of the big wins that happen on Facebook to be able to get to the next level happen off of Facebook. Because for you to get to 500K a month, like, your marketing is obviously, there's some improvements to make, but for you to get to that level, you know what you're doing with marketing, at least to some degree, right? You have a winning format, you have winning messaging, you have winning concepts. And like you said, it's just about putting the system in place to double down to now where you have more time to go focus on that next big growth lever.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
And dude, that's one of the biggest things I took away with the hires, right? Is I remember we were on a call and I was like, dude, it's such a high leverage, paid media, direct response. It's such a huge lever. And you're like, yeah. And there's bigger levers than just that. And I was like, I guess I never really even thought of it past that, as little as I'd want to admit that, but it's true. There are higher levers. There's bigger fish to fry. Now that's a huge lever and you absolutely do not want it to fall.
Yep.
Let me make that clear. And like, it's very important that you have that lever dialed in. But there are things that are higher. Like, and then, what are you going to do if you want to launch a second or a third SKU? I mean, if you're the one that's manning all of it, is there enough time in the day? That's kind of the roadblock you fall into. So you get to a point where it's like, yeah, it's important that we build structure, right? And then realizing there is there is other higher leverage tasks you can improve on the business as well. And I think learning how to hire and build that system and that team is just massive. I think that's probably one of the biggest separators that I personally see between 7 and 8 figure brands.
100 million%. I couldn't have said it any better. Which is why you're exactly on the right path, right? So if anyone's watching this who's in that, call it even like 250 to 500, maybe even 600K a month range, understand that really is your next biggest lever to pull on. It absolutely is, because you have winning formats, you have winning messaging, you have winning concepts in your ad account that work, and you could more or less systemize that, right? Like, you could double down on to make iterations on these ads and double down on these ads. Isn't that difficult? The difficult part was getting to where you are now to figure out the direct response marketing skills and the concepts that work. But now that you're here, you can systemize it out to go focus on the back end, the return customer rate, new products, new SKUs, even new channels, new markets, even all these types of things that are really going to be the next big needle mover versus just, over focusing on just, okay, I'm going to make these new 5 ads and these new 5 hook iterations myself. There's more important things for you to be doing. So yeah, you said it amazing. Now I only got 2 more questions for you.
And dude, one last thing I would like to add to that is, when I was talking to my strategist, interviewing him as well, man, it's like, sometimes you're so into it, and you've been in the market so long, you've sold the same product over and over. You try, like your brain is in a lot of ways is kind of blind and somewhat maybe even exhausted to what you're selling and your marketing and things like that. And when we were talking, it was really incredible to me how much he brought up so quickly as to different angles, different markets, like little tweaks here and there on how to present the product in a different way, go after different avatars. And these were angles that I've thought about and I've known and I've ran, but I'm just so like numb to it in a certain way that I'm like, okay, yeah, like sure we'll test it. But it's like in my head, I'm like, this is just a waste of time, whatever, we'll do it, but we'll see how it goes. It's worth a test maybe, but there's like you kind of just do it because you realize you should, not because you're like realizing the impact of it. And when we were talking about it and he was bringing these things up, I was like, wow, that's actually a major angle. Like we should definitely do that. And I've been doing it, but it just makes you realize the depth and the impact that it could have when you bring in those new eyes. And the second way that I recognized that was when I'm actually planning on launching a second SKU very, very, very shortly. And I was writing the copy for it, and man, it was so fun because it was like you get to write about different things, and it brings back kind of the inspiration that you have for your business and your customers. And I think that was something that was really exciting to experience again because now you get to love the business again. And I think just overall you're going to have more energy and you're going to have better output, and the business, the customers, the employees, everybody's going to have a better experience when that's that's how the business is being ran from the top down.
Yeah, 100%. That's the most beautiful part of it, is that you get time back to be able to do what you actually want to do, right? Whether this
Yeah.
be like copy on new products, whether this be managing the team, whether it be training the team, whether it just be going to the beach and drinking pina colada. At some point, you're able to do all of the above, depending on what you enjoy the most.
Mhm.
So the question I got for you next is, how did these kind of new systems, results, kind of the changes you've been able to put in your business over the last couple months, um, improve or change your life personally?
There's way less stress for sure, I would say. Like it doesn't feel like you're just like wandering. Like there's basically no hopelessness. Like it's a very clear, do this, do this. If this is down, fix this. If this is down, fix this. If this is doing really well, okay, well then let's double down on it. It just gives you a lot better clarity, and it makes you realize that there's always an end to the tunnel. If things get dark, there's an end to it. There's a light, and you see the light all around you. You're like, okay, well, we just got to do this. Like there was actually a point, man, when I was down in Miami for that while. I actually remember coming back on the flight, and I was like, man, or no, it was like a couple of days before the flight, and I was like, man, I don't feel anxious, and it almost felt strange. It actually felt weird. Like it was almost like something that I haven't felt in a while, and I was like, wow, that's different. But almost like a different, like I'm like, am I gonna lose my edge? That kind of thing. It actually was almost like a worry because it's been such a driving factor. But by the way, I'm not one that minds anxiousness, by the way, or stress. I'm really not. I'm completely fine with it. It really doesn't bother me much. In a way, I kind of enjoy it. I think it's kind of the winners. It's things that I think separates a lot of people that are where they want to be and people that aren't. So I just learned to accept it. It's not something that bothers me, but I will say the actual feeling of like stability is a lot higher.
I bet. No, that's awesome. And then other question I got for you, for everyone listening, Austin's an absolute killer. I mean, like when you have your mindset on something and next steps to take, like you take action insanely quick. And then you just get shit done. So whether you joined the program or you didn't, you would have figured it out sooner or later. But my question to you is, from before joining to then after joining the program, um, how or where do you think you'd be at the moment with the business if you didn't end up joining and getting some of those systems?
Man, because I've been blessed enough to go to some events and meet a lot of people, I think I would have found what the program offered from a network. I do, but I don't know if it would be as seamlessly integrated or as well explained. So, and that's it. Personally, if I have the option between spending money or spending time, I'm going to spend the money because you can't get time back. It's a pretty generic thing that a lot of people say, but I would much rather just spend the money, get the time back, and then in all reality, that it's really an investment that's probably going to create great return, which it has. So that's really my answer there.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, 100%. I agree. Like I said, you're a killer. Sooner or later, you'd be putting it in place and figuring it out as you go along. If anyone who's watching this can take anything from it, one, my recommendation would be once again, take action quick. That's probably one of the biggest skill set edges Austin has. He just moves quick on the things that he wants to learn, and when he knows he doesn't know something, he goes learns it and takes action on it very quickly. Two, I would say probably the
Yeah,
importance of systems that we talked about and kind of how that gives you the freedom back in your personal life, things more stable, and then lets you move up to higher leverage activities. And there's a lot of other really good nuggets throughout that. But thank you for hopping on and doing this
thank you.
call. Hopefully, people listening can take
Yeah,
a lot from it because
and
you're on
one
a rocket ship.
one thing that I would add here, man, is actually the only reason, like, sometimes when I watch calls of people that are like out, they're done with the program or whatever you want to say. Um, I'm like, well, why did they leave then? If it's working so well, why did they leave? And in all honesty, to answer that question, the reason that I actually decided not to renew is because I think the writing's on the wall. I know what I need to do. It's very simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. And I don't want to have a lot of extra information. I know what I need to do and I just want to do it.
Yep.
I Something I would provide to people, like some advice that I would give to my old self is you need just enough information to get things moving. Because one of the most dangerous things I've found is trying to learn and learn and learn and learn and learn from a bunch of different people and getting different opinions. And then what it comes down to is that guess what? There's a million different ways to make $1 million. So the thing is you're going to get a million different opinions and you're going to go nowhere. So I would suggest get the information, have clarity, make clear guidelines of how you're going to do it, and then do it. And then you'll learn from the experience. But
100%.
fast execution, I think, is probably the most important thing. I personally, as fast as possible is how fast I want to execute.
No, I think you're spot on with that. And once again, like that's what we're here for. We're not here for when you need us 12 months of the year, 360, 365. We're here for when you have these issues or systems or you need help with hiring, whatever it may be. You join, you get what you need, and if you got what you need, great, go about it, keep scaling, keep taking action. If you need to join back if there's issues again in the future, we're here. But by all means, 100%, you knew what you needed with all clarity coming into it. You got what you needed, put it in place, got the results from that, and then you're continuing on.
And I really might join again. I really might. I mean, it was a great experience. I would do it 100% over again. Like, guys, Dante, like one thing for you, man, is you make it very clear. Like, well, okay, I'll be honest. One of the things that you said that it is like you don't handhold and you don't like you're not sitting there like, oh, set up your pixel, like, you're not sitting there doing that. Like, I understand it is a higher level program for sure, but you do make it clear. Like, you really do make it very clear. There was not a time where I was wandering, and I mean, yeah, there's times that I'm unsure because I haven't done it yet, of course. But the thing is that you make it clear, which I think is what a really good mentor would do. Like, it's like third grade level if it needs to be, but at the same time, it's something that an executive could hear and be like, that's pretty solid advice. So it's a good translation.
Sweet. Well, I appreciate you, boss. Once again, thank you for doing this and hopping on. Um, and yeah, wishing you the best.
Same for you, man. Have a good one.